it's my pleasure to introduce Emre Orkun, who's from the Istanbul Technical University Autonomous Underwater Vehicle Team. So quite a long introduction there, but we will hear more from Emre what that actually means. But I think that this is a particular interesting presentation because we will actually hear from a student team. So Emre and his 4 colleagues are working on underwater robotic vehicle designs in Autodesk Fusion 360 as well. And they have participated in a number of international competitions with their their output. And earlier this year, they won actually the world championships in the Singapore AUV challenge. So we're talking to a world champion here as well. And for me, the reason we've asked Emre to join us is that we know that we have multiple students actually attending the event. And I think that this is a really good example, an aspirational example of no matter in which country you're based, how it actually is possible to acquire these really cutting edge skills and put them into real tangible output and build a foundation for what I'm certain will be a future career that's going to be amazing. And I imagine it's also including having some fun along the way, actually, once you will see what these guys are working on. So Emre, thank you also to you for joining our skills camp. I'll hand over to share so you can share a bit more about your project.
All right. Thank you, Thomas, for welcoming us. It's a great pleasure to be a part of this event. It's definitely so exciting for us as well. And yeah, as you mentioned, I'm here on behalf of Istanbul Technical University Autonomous Underwater Vehicle Team. I'm the mechanical team lead of that student team. And also, I'm a part of the Autodesk community. I've been voluntarily working as and CAD instructor at Autodesk Turkey. And we were really excited when we first got news about that event. And we just wanted to share what we have learned throughout this process. And before we begin, I just like to introduce about what AUVs are basically. And with your permission, I'd like to share my screen to show my presentation to you guys. All right, so I hope that everything seems well.
Yes, we see it well.
Yeah, that's great. So I already introduced myself and my team, and we're coming from Turkey. And we've been sponsored also by Autodesk for 2 years, which is a great opportunity for us. And thanks to Autodesk, we can move on faster and definitely with more courage. And I just like to introduce my team shortly. Our team was established in 2018 actually as a ROV team, but then our founders decided to move on to the autonomous technologies. And by saying autonomous, actually, it's better if I introduce what autonomous underwater vehicles are. Basically, they have various sensors on it, and they can detect environmental conditions, and they can collect images and process them. And all throughout this, they can identify objects on itself without no other controller or any controller mechanism. So in the short term, I can say that with that vehicles, deep waters are not that deep anymore. So we're trying to be a part of that technology with our own improvements. So as Thomas mentioned, we were proud to say that we got the first prize in SAUVC 2022, which is one of the oldest and most prestigious underwater vehicle competition in the world. And so basically, I'm here to explain how we succeeded on that competition. Because it was a long road for us, and we spent a lot of time to improve that vehicle mechanically, especially. And before then, we also got some other awards, thanks to Autodesk as well. By doing that, actually, I just wanted to mention that this is a complete process, and with the help of Autodesk, we have chance to be a part of that progress. Actually, we have completed over 100 control tests, including software, electronic, and mechanical tests. And after then, we finally had chance to compete in SAUVC 2022. And we took the first place out of 42 underwater vehicle teams from all around the globe. And that was definitely the moment that we've seen that this is the way it should be for us, because in Turkey, especially for the past decade, like in all over the world, the underwater technologies are improving rapidly, and we just wanted to tell the world that there's actually a possible way to do this in the fastest way, which is why we use Autodesk softwares actually. Before then, I'd like to shortly introduce also our national competition in Turkey. That was the moment that our paths are crossed with Autodesk. Autodesk Turkey basically supported us financially and also with their softwares to compete in that competition, in a national competition. And we got the design award in terms of electronics design and mechanical design. So we're really proud to be a part of this design with the sponsorship with Autodesk. So I think in this point, I need to tell about how did we succeed all this long. So our mechanical team, we're working on separate ways, like in the analysis part and the mechanical design part, the structural design part. Basically, we always use Fusion 360. But there's a reason why we use that. If you have already used Fusion 360, you probably noticed that on the left-hand side, on the main screen, you'll see a data panel, which we haven't used before we started to use Autodesk Fusion 360. We used to design our vehicles and various different softwares, but it was definitely so hard for us to put the all designs together. But with the help of that data panel, the online service, and also it is completely free for university students, and it's definitely the easiest way to design something before we manufacture it. So that was the main reason we started to use Fusion 360, and it was definitely a time saver for us. So our vehicles should last at least 300 meters underwater. So that means we should use additive manufacturing. Sometimes we need to use CNC milling, sometimes we use laser cut, but no matter what we're using, we always prefer Fusion 360. And especially we started to use the sheet metal the interface for the past year, and it definitely works much more easier compared to the other software. So we can also use manufacturing side to adhere to these standards, and also we can give parameters to our designs to change some initial conditions. So this is definitely the best way to manufacture something in industry. All right, so this is probably the my favorite slide of that presentation, because I'm also a generative design enthusiast. I love to use generative design, so we try to put everything to our vehicle by using generative design, mostly because it's crucial for us to stay stable underwater without consuming any power. And this is why we need to analyze that perfectly. And generative design allows us to balance our vehicle underwater, to level it in a very perfect way. And we can see the export and we can see the outputs really good in terms of materials and also some physical properties. So this is definitely a really good way to design something in a more innovative way. Okay, so we not only use Fusion 360, but we also use Autodesk other softwares. One of them is CFD. Maybe some of you may have heard this before. This is computable fluid dynamics software. And since we're moving inside the fluid, which is water, we need to see if everything is fine when we put our vehicle underwater. So this is why we also analyze our vehicle before we manufacture it. Also, we have some torpedo launchers in our vehicles. So we also see the velocity and the expected movements underwater. All right, so I know that this webinar is based on Fusion 360, but I will shortly mention about also the other disciplines that we managed to combine with our project. So we also use simulation softwares such as 3ds Max to our vehicles. As you may imagine, our vehicle works with artificial intelligence and to detect objects and also to identify objects from our side. We need to make recognized by our underwater vehicle. So this is why we model the area of computation by using 3ds Max. Also, yeah, I can see that our electronics team leader is also, I think, in this meeting, and she's been using Autodesk Eagle for a really long time, and she's a part of that full original design as well, and definitely really easiest way, probably easier way to design some basic cards and also to manufacture it as a PCB. So in a shortest way, I can say that we use some underwater microphones that our vehicle can detect echo sounders, and it can detect some basically objects underwater. And this is why we need to use acoustic filter cards, and we use to design that with Autodesk Eagle. Okay, so all throughout this, we also try to share what we know, and we make some webinars actually, as we can do, to share Autodesk softwares, especially Fusion 360. In this photo, you can see there are some high school students, and they visit us regularly, and we try to show them what can be done by using Fusion 360 in terms of manufacturing, especially. So when we say additive manufacturing, you probably imagine in the first way to 3D printing, and we also use 3D printings a lot to get an object, especially for a part in our vehicles, in the fastest way. And these students also focused on this area, and we try to educate them what they can do in the fastest way possible. All right, so we also like to share what we believe that we're doing is correct, and especially on GitHub and our website, we try to share what we do, basically, and you can check them out. We're planning to make some also videos based on Fusion 360 generative design interface, because we know that it's definitely one of the most impressive technologies in Fusion 360 that Autodesk developed, and we'd like to share it with others. We also try to do without stopping, basically. We're still designing and trying to analyze our new vehicles that will compete in the coming years. And we basically believe that we shouldn't stop improving. And that's it. Thanks for listening to me. And if you have any further questions, you can just reach me, or I'd like to hear from you if you have instant question that I can help to you.
Thank you, Emre. And I encourage everyone, if you want to ask questions. I think I have one, because and also a part of the clarification here. Obviously, our event is about Africa, and technically speaking, Turkey is not in Africa. But we've invited you anyway because of, from my perspective, two reasons. One is, of course, the super exciting work that you're doing. I think it's really impressive to see what's being created. But the other aspect, which I wanted to ask you, is, of course, how applicable is it to students in other countries? I know you're teaching other students, as you mentioned. So would you say that this is unique? Like, is this tied to the fact that you're based in Turkey, or do you think that there's applicability no matter where one is based regionally, so to speak, but to actually engage and start using tools like this and creating some really exciting projects? Could you share some insight on that, maybe also based on your experience of speaking to other teams in these competitions, etc.?
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to. Thanks for that great question, Thomas. Definitely something that I should have mentioned probably. I realized that when we participated in the competition in Singapore, the thing that we realized was Autodesk basically supports especially the student teams very well, like not only financially, but they also support them in more educational ways. So I can say that we met guys from Thailand, India, China, from all over around the world. And the only common point was they can use that software pretty good. Like they learned somehow, like, and also the biggest thing that I can tell to people who participated on that webinar will be they should involve themselves in the communities, not only the Autodesk communities, but like our student teams. That's also another community. And so in this way, they should force themselves to learn something about it. And of course, as I said before, Autodesk definitely supports especially students. I think it proves that this is why Autodesk serves the all softwares completely free during their student life, which is definitely great. And probably this is the reason why we so dedicated on Fusion 360. They support students no matter what you're doing. Also, we have some drone teams in our school. They also use Fusion 360 and also Autodesk softwares. And so basically they can merge that skills in any kind of industry.
Perfect, thank you. And that's really good insight, and hopefully serves as inspiration for us all. I see that there is a question from Ethiopia of someone who's new to this, basically to the software, etc. And whether there's any, and the question is whether there are any additional resources to learn the software and training, etc. Now you've mentioned the free software, etc. So I think what we will do on that point is that we will share, I will put in the chat a link to the place where the software can be downloaded. So I don't mean to interrupt your presentation, Emre, but I think it works very nicely with this theme of the question we're getting. So maybe we just do a quick share here on because you've talked about it. So in terms of what's available from Autodesk, and this links nicely to the example we've heard, is that there is free software for educational institutions. So that includes schools and universities to use in computer labs, individual faculty members, educators and of course then students to access an education plan that's available. And this provides a free license to most of Autodesk technology. Fusion 360 is one of them, but you heard in the presentation that there are other software solutions that work well, like Eagle for electronics design, and there's of course AutoCAD that I believe many are familiar with, etc., etc. So this is a resource that I think we can base off Emre's presentation is quite useful to leverage, and also interesting for those of you who are in industry to know that there is a pool of talented students who are actually accessing these tools already as part of their education. The other aspect of this, though, is of course learning, and we understand that not everyone is as as self-going as you are and your colleagues, so that you kind of jump into this yourself. So then there's quite a lot of free learning resources available as well that aligns the software. And there's courses, there's learning paths, so that one actually goes from A to Z almost. And some of this material is also aligned to Autodesk certification. So earning a certificate at the end of it and passing an exam that again can be used for future career opportunities for students. And this is, of course, the learning resources are, of course, also available to those of us who are not students anymore, but are in industry, so we can leverage this material as well. And then finally, I think to end up that particular question before I hand back, is that there's also training and certification opportunities. Sometimes it's not enough to do self-study. We all understand that. Sometimes we need the guidance of an experienced instructor. And there are various initiatives. We have individual student teams, like Emre's example, who actually take responsibility for sharing this with their peers. There is also a network of learning partners, and you will hear from some of them this morning actually share some of the projects they do. But in addition to that, they have let's say a day-to-day business where they're providing in-depth training courses that also can lead to certification. And then not at least to round that off, we also have these events that we do host, like the skills camp, where we try to do more generic. So while I was talking, I see that there was another question for you, Emre, and that's whether there's an opportunity for people to connect with you and start a collaboration or learn more. I saw that my colleagues put your LinkedIn profile in the chat. If you just want to double check, would that be of interest to you to connect with others across the world?
Yeah, sure, of course. No need to hesitate to connect with us. We're always try to share what we know as much as we can. I mean, of course, we don't know anything about, we don't know all the old stuff about Autodesk softwares. We're also still trying to learn the additional stuff. And what's interesting is also, just for a minute, I'd like to introduce that also. Me and also our software team members there, we're also trying to improve some plugins and add-ons on Fusion 360. And if there are some students or educators who they're interested in that, they can also look at some add-ons and plugins interface and included in Fusion 360. The one that I can remember right now is there were also some Spurgear add-ons that they can improve also themselves in a software way. So not only in design, but they also improve themselves and improving their softwares, so that they can collaborate also with Autodesk and Fusion 360. But yeah, according to that question, they can always reach us.
Perfect. Well, that's really great. Well, on that note, I want to thank you for being with us, and I hope I said that it's given everyone who's listening some really good perspective on what's feasible, and thanks again to you and your team for sharing your exciting examples here with us.
You're welcome. Yeah, it was a pleasure for us, and wish you a great webinar to all. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.